Neliswa, can we start? Neliswa.
Good morning, Chair. I'm not sure if
umuntu angafuna ukugunda utshani imvula ini. Nkosana, tshela umdala ukuthi angagunda utshani imvula iyana. No, tshela umdala angagunda utshani imvula iyana.
Good morning, Chair. I think so far members is the LAPA are about 6.
Oh, this 6.
Yes, Chairperson.
Ukubona umuntu imvula iyana umuntu ugunda utshani.
Ayikho indaba yokugunda utshani izulu lina. Ayikho nje.
Sasiyagunda manje. Umumbo kodwa ke lobo. Sisiphatha zonke. Sisiphatha zonke nje.
Awu kwayibona phitwe nje akho imvula iyana
Unela njengabe inamali ephakethe nabe sezogunda.
Mona nje.
Awumengenamali njena useyogunda utshani.
Azongigangela. Beka kuphi umdala lasimanje? Hayi man, Nkosana, hambani.
Hawu, hayi. Nami ngithi hayi. Ubona njengenamali. Ake ngiye lapha ngiyogunda. Singomama phela mama nje siphethe amakhaya.
Ngapha nangapha.
Ngapha nangapha. Awu.
Nami nje sengiphume egadini. Ngeke ubelieve mamhlenga sengiphume egadini. Uzivalile. Uzivalile mic yakho.
Awukwazi ukungaya engadini.
Hayi sengiphuma khona.
Nami nje sengiphuma igceke lonke leli.
Injalo.
Hayi,
phofu uleqa isikhathi kuyo yonke lento yenzayo.
yebo.
Uleqa isikhathi mntakamama.
Kunjani mhlobo wami?
Khaya.
Kunjani?
Awu.
Ungene kahle?
Ngiyaphila sithandwa sami, ngiyaphila.
Hayi siyabonga.
Siyabonga sisi, siyabonga ukubonana nje.
But we can start the meeting, ne?
Neliswa,
are we not forming a quorum?
We do, Chair, we can start.
Yeah, we can start. Good morning, honorable members. Good morning, Minister, DM, DG, and your other team that is with you. And a very good morning. I very DG, no Minister, no DM. You were part of our meeting yesterday. We welcome you and compliments of the new year. And we wish you well for this year. And by the grace of the Lord, we trust that you are protected in Jesus' name, and we wishing you the best for this year. I think there's a lot that you are going to do as a portfolio committee, and even with the GBVF issues we are going to run. So, and the bills that you must table to Parliament, hopefully you are busy at work in your department, and by the end of this year, we'll have done, I think it's 3. And yeah, I think with those few words, I welcome you all. And I declare this meeting officially open. And we can hand over now to the Minister for any presentation or DM or DG. Over to you.
May I also join you, Chair, in welcoming all members and all officials into the new year, and pray that we all remain safe as we struggle to save livelihood in this challenge that we're faced with of COVID-17, that we are able, that God gives us strength to take care of all our people, abled and disabled, particularly women, youth, and persons with disabilities. Without much only Deputy Minister to talk to us on this draft bill on disabilities. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you very much.
Chair, let me also apologize that as we move, because we are forced to move and do all this, the reception is still a big problem wherever we go. So my humblest apologies. We are struggling.
Okay, Minister. We want to thank DDD Shoki for being with us yesterday when provinces were presenting, we're accounting for the sanitary dignity packs. It's 6 provinces that came. We are left with 3 provinces, KZN, Free State, and Northwest. They are the only provinces that did not came yesterday. So we have written letters to them, and then we'll schedule meetings for them. So I will appreciate your presence in that meeting because you know that in some of those provinces there were issues regarding the sanitary dignity packs. So we will want Minister and DM that DG that you must be part of that meeting. When we schedule it, we'll tell you. Probably it will be a Friday, but we're still checking and on which date are we going to give a slot for that meeting, because our program is very tight. So we want to thank DDT Shoki. She said until we finished, I think at 7:15, if I'm not mistaken, from 9 until 7:15 yesterday. So she was present, and she was able to respond to some of the issues that we wanted her to respond. But I think at last, what we have observed as the portfolio committee is that there's no uniformity. So provinces, in other provinces, that a program is in Department of Education, and in other provinces is in social development. And there is no consistency in terms of who gets awarded the tender or whatsoever. It differs from province to province. And I think this year, your department and us, Minister and DM, will want to see that 40% procurement beneficiation by women being implemented. You know, it must not be like it's a pronouncement by the president, but now we want to see it being implemented. And that's why we are going to run there's no department that will leave behind. Any department that has got a project that is out there, we will want to see our women are being accommodated, are being awarded those big tenders. Our women must be economically empowered by all those projects that government do have, and that money must not go to the old people, old business who just benefited for a very long time, but our the poor women who just started in our youth, they must benefit. Our disabled, our persons living with disabilities must benefit. You know, we can't read the statistics every day telling us that in fact government is not doing whether something or it's one person, a minister and a deputy minister and DG. But thank you very much, DG Shoki. Keep up the good work, and we'll ensure that those provinces, they account biannually for that project, Minister and DM. Thank you very much. You can now hand over to, you said Minister is the DG that is going to make a presentation, or is DM?
Chair, the minister asked me to make some opening remarks, then okay. the DG will make a presentation. Good morning, Chairperson. Good morning, and all colleagues, honorable members. I just want to add to what already Minister Maipu Mashabane and the Chairperson have said, that we pray that 2021 will be a good year, especially in the context of the pandemic we're in, COVID-19. The department just reminded me the other day, directly affected by this pandemic, and honorable members, we know number of people in Parliament. In our department, the latest victim is our Director of IT, Mr. just succumbed to COVID-19 related complications. So we are all in prayer, Comrade Chair, that the distribution of vaccines should help in this country to lower the number of deaths. Chairperson, today we are here with the department. The department is led by the Director General, Ms. Maluleke, or Advocate Maluleke, who will take us through a number of strategic frameworks and a bill that the department, in support, the Law Reform Commission is working on. So basically, before the DG makes a presentation, it is important to give a context that really for us, we are looking forward to a bill that will be built on already approved instruments which grow dignity of persons with and their rights. But we all know that we don't live in the world of human rights. Sometimes you need a teeth or truth of the law to reinforce certain but before we go to the framework, I just want to assure honorable that the department, since we were given this mandate of focusing on the rights of persons with disabilities, we have been at the beginning of January, there was big public outcry. But the messages they sending notice actually set outside offices wanting to be first. Of course, we were first alerted to this tragedy through social media and then national platforms, which grant beneficiaries, particularly in the Western Cape, had to. So, as a department, we stood up social development, and of course, actually, the department insisted that they have to commit to be seen in person. So what they were doing, the review and the reinstatements of grants cannot be compromised. But I think we also continued officials of the rights of persons with disabilities. And I think the Portfolio Committee on Social Development also stepped in. Just at the same time, then there was an incident that took place in Belleville between the subs and beneficiaries. And again, intervened because that incident involved the use of water cannons to disperse crowds desperate to receive their grants. And of course, those persons with disabilities, and we must say it further strengthening the law when it comes to the protection of the rights of persons with disabilities. I think the officials remain engaged on the matter. They are in discussions on the development so as to ensure that the department is assisted in restoring the dignity of persons with disability and ensuring that whatever they do, it doesn't seem to be in violation of their rights. And so, because we have the white paper on the rights of persons with disabilities, which remains a cornerstone and a baseline policy that guides the work of the department and in all three spheres of government models. And as requested by the Portfolio Committee, today we are presenting to you a strategic framework on reasonable accommodation, the National Strategic Framework on Universal Design and Access, the National Strategic Framework on Awareness Raising Campaign, Disability Rights Bill. All of these documents serve as tools on persons with disabilities. Chairperson, I'm not try to reflect on any of these, because that's just want to assure honorable members that I think this is a top priority. There has been a myself that now that we have a unit in place within the Department of Persons with Leadership who are focusing on persons with disabilities, will remain vigilant and with the assistance of also cabinet members, we hope with that clear assurance that the rights of persons with disability is at the center of all. Thank honorable members and bring this opportunity back to you, Chair, to depart the Director General. Thank you very much.
Over to you, DG.
Thank you, Chair. Compliments of the Portfolio Committee. We haven't been talking since last, so appropriately to what you want us to respond to. I'm hoping today we are not going to fight. I want to thank the Portfolio Committee for giving us an opportunity to come and present on the frameworks on the challenges and maybe achievements that we are making with regards to this. There are 5, as the Deputy Minister had bill on the rights of persons with disabilities, the draft bill. There are process, the discussion paper, and the 4 frameworks on rights, on national reasonable accommodation, universal design and access, self-representation, and okay, before I request the Lord from the members that in 2018, on May 2018, the Minister of Justice, that was before persons with disabilities was transferred to the Department of Women. The Minister of Justice had written to the Law Reform Commission for the law domestication of the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities legislations, and we talk about the rights of persons with disabilities. Since 2018, the Law Reform Commission mind whether there is a need for developing legislation, or should other legislation. In 2019, the Law Reform Commission then made the decision that they are still going to investigate whether one legislation that will be determined by the report that will be developed. The Law Reform Commission will present on the involvement of the department. When is the department, the representation of the department, because there is an official who's represented it, and the process will then be handed over to the Portfolio Committee for the Portfolio committee to do its processes of legislation. The 4 frameworks that will be done by the department, but for now, on the legislation, on the draft legislation, Tanya Prinsloo to present.
Good day, can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Informed by our one commissioner, Advocate Wall, that he's able to join Bongi and ask her to send an invite to him, please, if that's okay.
Yes, I'll do that. You can.
Okay, let me just quickly copy email. DG, I have your WhatsApp on me. Can I just maybe send it to you? For I don't have the Bongi's email.
Okay, I've received it.
Okay, it's Tanya Prinsloo. I'm a representative, or I'm the researcher at the Law Reform Commission, responsible for project mention on the rights of persons with disabilities. I present to you today the progress on that, and then also the purpose of the presentation is to inform the portfolio committee of the composition and working processes of the Law Reform Commission to arrive at a solution. And what?
Can you see your face?
Okay. Okay, hang on, let me just, I have no idea how to put the video on. Can somebody just maybe guide me? I have no idea. Start video. Okay, it's on. Thank you. The reason for why we're doing the processes, and we need to indicate public consultation is of utmost importance. We also need to indicate the scope of the project and put the development of Project 148 in place with the and the current situation. Like the DG said, we received the request to investigate the Department of Justice constitutional development. We did a pre-investigation. I will deal with the term pre-investigation research program of the committee in 2019. The advisory committee for Project 148, I will also deal with the term later on. This committee met shortly after its appointment to develop an issue paper. This issue paper served before the Commission application to some editing, and the projected date for publication is mid thereafter, with projected end date of 31st May 2021. Euthanasia, assisted decision making, abuse of persons with mental illnesses, especially the elderly, and who must give evidence in court when they have mental disabilities or have head injuries. The scope is wide, and because of the sub-projects, might only issue paper. What is important is that we need to indicate that the outcome of domestication, there's a number of options that's possible. We cannot at this stage indicate what the process is consuming, yes, but we need a constitutional comprehensive legislation. I know we might not always reach consensus, but the context of the issue by February for the publication on the contents thereof. On a variety of matters stated in the mention. Now, I need to indicate who we are. I need to indicate to you the organization was established by the South African Law Reform Commission Act 19, the Law Reform Commission Act. Now, the objects of the Commission are set areas to research with reference to all such branches in order to make recommendations form of the law, including the repeal of obsolete, the bringing about of uniformity in the law and consolidation or codification of any branch of the law, and then steps. We are constituted as follows. In terms of Section 318 of the Act, the Commission is constituted as follows: Court of Appeal or High Court judge or retired judge. The chairperson is Judge Jody Collins. Then we have appointed on account as an advocate or as an attorney or as a profession or an account of any other qualification related to the objects of these people called commissioners are appointed by the President. In terms of Section 5 of the Act, including various matters for the that require consideration, the program is the Commission might include any suggestion for investigation relating to any person or anybody is free to submit the proposals for this Commission considers the merit of the proposal. Whether the inclusion of the investigation I've been talking about, we can also include we might consult any person or body during that investigation if it is in their opinion, if the Commission is of the opinion that legislation I've spoken of Commission and it considers advice to the Commission where 1AB of the Act, the Commission identifies the appointment by the Minister. Now, on Project 148, which is the project leaders, one society members, also including in the committee, advisory committee, is a representative from the Department of Women. The project leaders are two senior advocates. How we go about doing our research? I need to indicate that to you. Needs to be rectified. Consultation takes place between the residents, the general public, stakeholders, and persons with particular knowledge about the matter on investigation, so that the Commission can draw on experiences elsewhere in the world. After the Commission is reached, whether it's an issue paper or discussion paper, the research paper is approval. Now, one of the next more reform proposals, which should be considered by the relevant departments to promote the proposal in Parliament. The next slide. Pre-investigation and an issue paper. The pre-investigation is the first step of the investigation. If approved, it gets placed on the research program. The stage of the investigation of the problem. It sets out the current problems in and defines the vision from the public on what is as wide as possible. In terms of is the publication thereof is imminent, and we also to provide an accessible document. Once responses from the public are received on it of the law, might be necessary basis for the discussion paper. Possible consultations take place. Then the paper is freely available at the Law Reform Commission. Then the next step, after all the this report is forwarded to the Minister of Justice and Correctional Services for transmission, in this case to the Department of Women, Youth and Persons with will contain law reform proposals, which should in Parliament station. Even though we cannot achieve consensus, like I said, with this already been discussed, people will know what is happening, and it will make it is time consuming, yes, but like I said, we need to have that, to have the public involved. Yeah, that I
DG? DG?
Yes, Chair.
DG?
I'm not sure whether you want to ask questions.
go to all presentations.
Currently,
Eh,
plus eight.
yebo.
Let them do all the presentations so that yeah.
Thank you. Yes. I will request Ms. Puti Emabelebele to do the presentation.
Thank you, DG, for the portfolio committee, Minister, Deputy Minister, DG, and colleagues. Presentation on the awareness raising and self-representation be screened. Okay, thank you, Chairperson. I'll go on the raising and self-representation frameworks, but allow me first to indicate that I have spoken to the reason why is that in the light of the fact instruments that will instruments or tools that will assist the department to be able to transform government departments to be compliant on in upholding and promoting the rights of persons. On the presentation, I'll go briefly into the background and then also purpose of the awareness raising framework. With regard to the presentation on the awareness raising and self-presentation to the universal design and allow me to give a brief background raising and awareness raising framework to inform the portfolio committee on progress made thus far on the development representation framework. After wide consultation with the participants in the National Residential Working Group on Disability, that the two frameworks should be developed and implemented on the rights of based on the implementation wide guidelines for planning, procedural issues, budgeting, and governance. So these two frameworks are now working in progress. Now, the purpose of the awareness raising coordination of services and raising campaigns, but also to establish barriers and participation at the first. We also in this framework can research to provide for the implementation of awareness raising in a culture of realization to integrate awareness raising referred to a chairperson and the campaigns that are run in government. There's a lot considered in terms of ensuring that rights of persons with disabilities also have access to those awareness raising campaigns. But in this intervention and progressive realization to integrate the awareness raising in the service provision. So are being provided how and what and in an accessible of performance raising campaigns of services open to and monitor a particular performance standards that will have and monitor that services and especially to specific roles, functions, departments, and connected there with here ensuring that particular levels of responsibility within government and even the objectives of the provision of awareness raising. The one of the reasons why we want to ensure that disabilities do not struggle to have access to information in society. Disabilities are guaranteed of independent living and also their participation in society based on options for quality of life for themselves, and also in campaigns with regard to disabilities are actually accessible. To motivate for this particular aspect would be what we have shall address when the one of the broadcasters was not able to broadcast the sign language. With this particular awareness raising, we will be trying to ensure that the sanctions that are supposed to be put in place for persons with disabilities do not become that is part and parcel of all their programs, and it's provided for. And the goal of the framework is therefore is to ensure that we provide a toolkit to all service providers in the public and private sector, but particularly a toolkit which is guiding on deliver services effectively and efficiently to persons with disabilities, of existing legislation that advocates equality for persons with disabilities. And we'll do that by taking covenants are upheld. The goal, another goal, important goal, is to ensure that we remove, in reference to the UNCRPD Article 8 provides for that as a legal mandate. That awareness raising campaigns and public participation rights to acknowledge that not all persons with disabilities are alike. Age, sexuality, ritual education requires responses, because that to persons with disabilities, they are rendered, yet for able-bodied persons, there is a clear distinction of ensure that all those personal circumstances taken into consideration when services are rendered. Embedding of the obligations contained in the UN Convention on issues of policy and service delivery disabilities in different legislation. Now, in the framework, Chair, we have included to each and every awareness raising. So I've taken the raising, but we have provided for different of terms that we are using persons with disabilities. Now, the process of awareness raising meets and recognize their rights through national commemoration days, population. Through awareness raising is a method of communication through design of products, environments to the greatest extent possible without the need for adaptation. I'll just give a simple instance that let me put it this way: service providers tend to think that for them to have payments, the only way to do that is by provision of sign language. We for more and other options that are available to reach use of captions whenever implemented when impairments or deaf persons are familiar with sign for others also to be able to access the information that we are trying to just in the form of an example. Now, in the framework, the one members, there's interpretation, objects and application of the abbreviations, definitions, and the interpretation, so that there isn't, we do not limit interpretation and so forth, but there is a clear understanding of what we're trying to define. Limitation and exceptions of the framework. Enhancement of awareness raising campaigns. This particular chapter is stated to adopt immediate, effective, and to advocate for the improvement and development. Article 8 of the UN. So the chapter is awareness raising campaigns to ensure that disability rights for accommodated in all broader awareness raising campaigns, advocacy campaigns on the rights of persons with disabilities on a wider scale. And chapter 3, responsibilities of service providers and sectoral groups. So this chapter, and in the public in general, by initiating and maintaining, promoting record on the issue of awareness raising campaigns, because it is not just persons with disabilities who need matters around how they need to be serviced, but it is also service providers chapter talks to specific roles and responsibilities of service providers. The roles and responsibility of different service providers for them to be able to account for disabilities. Chapter 4 of the framework then deals with the relationship between media abilities. In other words, development of communication strategies and media campaigns. Touched on an example of the recent sign language matter that has arisen with one project of which we had an apology thereof, but the issue is that we need at the end of the day to ensure that it's not Terry which finds itself in the policies of those particular institutions, options that are available for accessibility to persons with disabilities. And this particular chapter mainly deals with the influence of media towards society to the awareness raising campaigns on the rights of persons with disabilities. And that falls of the UNCRPD, the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. Sensitization. In other words, here we are focusing more on training programs. This particular chapter with disability rights. One of the things that we, with the School of Government, there's already a course outline for mainstream persons with disabilities, which we want to ensure that government officials and gets training in that regard. And then chapter 6 deals with the monitoring and evaluation of this awareness raising on whether, for instance, it reaches, there is a difference in the lives of persons with disabilities with regard to how services are proper and equitable for them. So 7, which is just a chapter on general provisions. This chapter covers in which on which this particular framework is based. The articles that talks to the different chapters of the framework, chapter of general provisions, and also this chapter determines compliance and the methodology, because further than outside this particular framework, once it's approved, then it means that we need to ensure that we determine consequence and also guiding drafting of regulations on awareness raising campaigns. Chapter 8 of the framework then deals with the because we expect that as government we should promulgate regulations that should be included in promoting awareness raising as service providers. This talks to also the participation of beneficiation programs of government. For instance, the presidential announcement of increasing the threshold of beneficiary percent and to persons with disabilities to 7%. And within women, within youth, they're part of the 40%, and young people, youth, with disabilities also form part of the youth, but also most importantly, so that means that as particular to regulate the manner in which persons are also included in promoting and not of service provision with regard to promotion of awareness raising campaigns. Also, this chapter 8, which talks to the regulations, will also cover procedures and conduct promotion of media relations and training, registrations, raising the empowerment project, but procedures would be followed in connection with the lodging and consideration, and would be expecting that those particular service providers also have been running. In summary, with regard to the awareness raising campaign, I would say that we're dealing mostly with the enhancement for specific roles and responsibilities of service providers or sectoral groups, and the relations on and communication strategies and media campaigns, the institutional arrangements thereof, the sensitization, monitoring, and evaluation, and the general, that then is the end of the presentation on the awareness raising. I'll run straight. My screen does not project the being presented on the so I'm using my own, but just a brief background before I go into the definition. Is about the framework on self-presentation is about. I will briefly just give a background on this particular development of the rights-based legislative framework. Another achievement to note was the institutionalization of the principle. And now this particular evidence of representation and participation, as we all know it, after 1994, by persons with disabilities who participated at national, provincial. This also demonstrates the shift in attitude within our highest and critical office. There is a recognition that there should be persons with disabilities need to represent themselves in all these echelons of decision, and resulted in a number of other significant policy trajectories. For instance, and it became a priority, and also in the NDP provision, not accommodation, there's provision as to how, and their consultation and participation in that regard, in order to ensure policy influence. So this particular, with the call for an active citizenry, which is there in the national act of citizenry, had to be written in this decision-making structures. Also, different needs through a developmental approach. So the self-representation framework is a complete, as described also in Pillar 1 of the white paper, which has to do with strategic and the strategic participation. In Pillar 6, which talks to the strengthening of the representative voice of persons to provide for a statutory and regulatory reference and approach for the promotion and upholding of the right to self-represent Africa. Its purpose is also to provide a framework for an integrated and multidisciplinary coordination of it also provides for the establishment of consultative platforms and national and provincial forums and related. Just to talk to this particular aspect, if I were to
the things that you're presenting, because I see the definition, because I'm trying to.
Oh, okay. Chat in the broader framework, Chairperson. The presentation was just a shortened version with regard to the purpose of being the slides. There's a bit small on my screen. To the committee to where I am.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying.
So I go in. All right. Okay. Just continuing on purpose is that the self-representation framework will assist us to also and secondary victimization of persons with disabilities, integration programs into society through institutionalization of self-representation of persons with disabilities. I was on let me just go back to the issue of provision of the national and provincial forums. I wanted to give an example that one of the key examples of such is that to actually create forums of those forums are able to inform the internal program of the department, and those forums are able to review policies, including issues of budgeting, and it is in those forums that instituted by persons with disabilities that are in those particular departments currently, even though the number might not be added, but there are persons with disabilities in various departments who then sit in this room to review the policy. For instance, I know that the Department of Public Service and Administration, the persons with disabilities will then be part and parcel of processes in also programs that are run outside the department. There's we are not there, but we are getting there, because currently it is just done. This particular framework will assist us to ensure that this is not done as a by the way, but it's seen as part and parcel of what Also, one of the purposes of this for designation and deployment strategy on consultative and working group in the office of in the presidency on different work streams that address different aspects. Like, for instance, we have the work stream that deals with us, the work stream that deals with economic matters and so forth. So those are some of the initiatives that are there, which would want to see that they are actually rolled out in different departments, that particular rolling out in different departments. Key on the purpose is just to provide for the development and implementation of self-representation through norms, but also to provide for the specific roles and responsibilities. Their roles and responsibilities are critical for them to be able to be held accountable on the self-representation of persons with disabilities. On the definition of self-representation framework have put in chapter 1 and the application of the framework. So this actually refers to the practice of people themselves and for themselves. It also refers to persons with disabilities being accused and on issues that relate to their specific needs and circumstances. So that particular all providers and also for persons with disabilities when we talk to the self-representation framework. Just to touch on the just to touch on the objective. Is to an honorable member, sorry, is to actually ensure that we move from policy to practice. This self-representation by persons with disabilities by focusing patient through self-representation, because current of the 7%, it has become it is a pronouncement, but we are not seeing it being actioned. So this framework will assist the self-representation, and also yes, it will assist us to ensure that we are focusing on actual the following strengthening access and participation through self-representation. Already with the work streams that we have created in the presidential work departments on matters that the different work streams have been segmented into, we involve them and they are part and parcel of government. And also official recognition of representative. We also will strengthen diversity and self-advocacy consideration issues where there might be intersectionality. There's self-representation in public life. There's societal interests in community initiatives and so forth. And also the constitutional and legal imperative right of self-representation. So that is the framework. Before I mention framework, allow me to just give a brief synopsis as I've done with the awareness raising structure. It is divided into 5 chapters, and chapter 1 of vision, objectives, and the application of the framework, and chapter 2 talks to self-representatives. Chapter 3 talks to the legislation and constitutional obligations for self-representation, and then the chapter 4 is a big issue when it comes to implementation of policies, programs, and a lot of the times people are using it as an excuse to be compliant. So we talking to in chapter 4 we talking, and chapter 5 talks to the institutional arrangements for coordination. Chairperson, as it's the key articles that framework are captured in the different articles. Entitled General Principles, Article 4 on General Obligations, Article 7, Article 12, Equal Recognition before the law, Article 13, Access to Justice, Immunity, Article 21, Freedom of Expression and Opinion, and Access to Information, and active participation in cultural life, recreation, leisure, and sport. Article 33 with the National Forum on the Committee on the Rights of. So those articles already are serving as the basis for where this framework is mandated from. So those articles, we have to ensure that those articles are also are realized in the next slide. What's happening? Am I still audible? We have electricity in our area, but I will continue. I still have some on my laptop. With regard to the application of the framework, that it's informed also by this, it is informed largely by the South African legal context, but by also the white paper on the rights of persons with disability context. I've already talked to the articles in the UNCRPD that I've just mentioned now. So with the National Disability Strategy, this particular strategy presented the turning point. Okay, and this identification of opportunities for persons with disabilities. So, because South Africa ratified optimum protocol without reservation, that is why we find ourselves having to we develop a framework that will also persons with disabilities. Now, the legal framework of that applies to duty bearers, which includes oversight institutions, government, the judiciary, and the policymakers, us as public servants, frontline staff, as representative organizations of these organizations, and non-governmental organizations and civil society organization, is aimed for achieve inclusion and just strengthening access and participation by providing official recognition of representative organizations for persons with disabilities. So it is a policy guide, a detailed analysis of matters, principles, and approaches to self-representation. Yeah, so in its nature, the self-representation framework implications with the inclusion strategies that require that all tiers of government, social, economic, human rights, political structures, and all their will be realizing the overall mandate of ensuring that is guaranteed also for persons with disabilities is then realized. With regard to the frameworks presented, the Disability Rights Awareness Campaign and the self-representation, and they were well consulted with the Presidential Working Group on Disability not later than the 26th of February at a committee at NETLAC, and process through the digital clusters and the cabinet system not later than May 2021. That's in relation to the raising and self-representation, and the recommendation of the frameworks, and then later on the portfolio committee will be to monitor the implementation thereof once it's adopted, and we are now monitoring in government departments. So that brings me to the end of the presentation of self-representation and awareness raising frameworks.
Current view is active speaker. Double tap to hide toolbar.
I now will move to the Universal Access Plan.
Current view is shared. Double tap to hide toolbar.
Just on the purpose of the reasonable accommodation and universal design and access, that this is based on the human rights perspective as it relates to disability. This particular the human rights of it, they actually also benefit from the right to dignity. And the purpose of the Universal Design Framework is to integrate universal designing, all budgeting, implementation, monitoring, evaluation, and reporting systems. Whilst the purpose of the reasonable accommodation, integrated and multidisciplinary coordination of reasonable accommodation and coordinate the dissemination of information on reasonable accommodation measures. The DG highlighted to matters around how we trying to ensure that this particular accommodation also find effect into the programs and projects of different cluster departments as the human settlements and water and sanitation, for instance. Our participation forums is to ensure that in whatever as they deliver houses to are able to also ensure that there are specific particular houses that have been designed according to particular specifications that or specified because currently what then happens is that you'll find that houses are built, they are normal standard houses, and the assumption is that through this particular frameworks we'll be able to ensure that all of that is taken into consideration from the entry point of planning, to designing, to the budgeting and the implementation thereof, and also monitoring and evaluating and ensuring that compliant and accommodate persons with disabilities. Now, the frameworks are based on the implementation approved in 2015 and published officially in 2016. Now, these are implementation tools to assist state organs, professional practitioners, and implement universal design and reasonable accommodation. I've already just given an example of one area in which we expect this. Now, in the framework also have provided for definitions so that people understand what we mean by disability. So that disability, for instance, to the popular ones that are known, but they are able to know that disability abilities in one. So the definition that we gave in the framework was that disability is imposed by with physical, intellectual, psychosocial, neurological, and or sensory impairment is denied access to full participation, hold the rights and specific needs of individuals with impairments. And this is an evolving concept, and new disabilities are discovered, also social, neurological, and sensory impairments only. Yes, and also we have defined what reasonable universal design means. This also will assist various providers to be able to understand that, and for us to be able to ensure that persons with disabilities enjoy and exercise on an equal basis with others. We should be able to indicate what this reasonable accommodation refers to. Currently, you'll find a situation where building, then they conclude that that is the reasonable accommodation, and they've done it without taking into cognizance we were trying to provide the accommodation for. So the definition of reasonable accommodation adjustments as well as assistive devices and technology. We're not imposing a situation where it is also enjoy and exercise freedoms. Now, on universal design, it is the design. Yes, ma'am.
Let's go back to that kind of reasonable accommodation. An example with the, for instance, in Parliament, members of Parliament who have some of them, they are on wheelchairs, and Parliament will appoint an assistant who will assist that member to be able to push the errands that the member and for instance, those that the ones who are depending on sign language, they do have those people who are assisting them in Parliament. But where they tried to define what is reasonable accommodation time, and it took even, us as the portfolio committee, we had to intervene. So I think one of the definition, it covers those people who will need and be appointed to be able to assist that individual. I'm not sure whether this definition does cover that.
Okay.
Like what I've cited right now, that will be there with them to assist them to do whatever, whether it's at home, whether it's at, I'm not sure whether this definition covers that.
Yes. Okay. Yes. Thank you, Chairperson, for that. Yes, in the reasonable accommodation guide on, and of course, as you have mentioned, that the different assistive devices. Sometimes the assistive device can come in the form of an aid, which is a person who has of the disability. Sometimes it might take a particular technology, example of, for instance, a sign language. That it's not only sign language that is, but also captions that could run through on the bottom of the screen are also options that are available. But these are not guide and guide in terms of what would be the different assistive devices that needs to be made available. The example that Chair gave of wheelchairs and an aid. Yes, and doesn't work, because also it means that the equitable access might be hindered, might be a barrier. We might be creating a barrier with that, but to how our ramps are designed, for instance. You have a particular building, but the ramp is built according to the specifications of the stairs of that user wants to go up. They even fall. They can bend backwards because to suit the needs of the wheelchair user. Just to cite an example, so don't deal with, so that we bring uniformity in terms of in the facilities, we be it buildings, but also that will be assisting those that will require physical human aids.
Yeah.
I hope that answers trying to address.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to get from us to debate it in the portfolio committee, and as we'll say, we are interfering, but there was a need for those commissioners to get that reasonable accommodation in the form of aids, aid. Yeah. So that's why I'm asking you, because we need to be clear. I can say, we didn't accommodate them here. There's a shortfall. But thank you very much for the explanation.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Yes, and as it's in the design of the products, the environment, the programs and services, to without the need for adaptation or specialized design. And just on this particular one, also the question raised by the Chair, is also issues of lighting, for instance, which do not require alterations. Those that deal with facilities understand the in place in order to accommodate those who have got side impairments, for them to be. As it is, you find that in any environment, including those that are not able-bodied, the persons with disabilities, sorry, but also with the able-bodied, give an examples of spectacles to say there are people who, when they go to see an optometrist, the ones that are shaded, darker, lighter, medium, and so forth. And yet when we provide lighting, especially in our facilities, which are supposed to accommodate everyone, we do not put normal lighting and expect other people to adjust to it. And already that is a barrier to other people. Next slide. Now, before I go into the legislative mandates, Chair, allow me to share with the committee the objectives of the reasonable accommodation framework, which is to ensure that reasonable accommodation support is approached from a human rights and inclusive developmental perspective. So like I said, it should be inclusive of all of us. Wherever we're implementing designs, universal designs, and we're putting in accommodation for all, this should be inclusive also of all, including persons with disabilities. So the objective is also to ensure that all public and private sector entities make provision for reasonable accommodation in service delivery, and they allow for and support the development of reasonable accommodation plans as integral components of their universal design access plans. And also to facilitate the implementation of programs and provision of reasonable accommodation measures, which includes accessible disabilities, which will enable them to fully participate in the activities of society, others, even when it's not necessary. So this particular reasonable accommodation framework and one important point to note in this regard is actually very tends to be very individual and impairment specific. So in other words, specific, and as I gave a couple of examples earlier on, that when a physical environment is being made to be accessible, it should take, the organizations will need to ensure that they look at the different aspects of accessibility, from lighting, access for wheelchair users, and also for access for those that are using not wheelchairs but other modes to assist them to walk. And also this reasonable accommodation provision and communication. It also, we are trying also to redress the stress factors in any environment, assist and so forth, and that's an infringement also on the personal dignity of the rights of a person with disability. But also to ensure that we accommodate specific sensory requirements, like I indicated, the issue of light, the issue of for the hearing impaired, but also to improve independence and mobility of persons with disabilities, and guarantee the participation and support. This will enhance the provision of access and participation to quality education and work, because these are the things that hinder, that are persons with disabilities to access their workplace. You find that a school or a workplace environment provision that has not been made for it to that it doesn't affect any person with a hearing impairment. So those kind of considerations are what this reasonable accommodation. Now, the legislative mandates, as indicated, includes consumer rights, access to courts, police station, protection of individuals in the criminal justice system, monitoring, national statistician to the justice cluster, and also social protection in terms of on the side of labor and employment, business opportunities, access to finance. On justice, I've already touched on it, but here we're talking more to social justice, which talks to consumment and emergency reaction, housing and settlement development, transport and accessibility, of professionals, employment, business opportunities, access to finance, as they should. So next slide, please. So some of the recommendations, as we have indicated, of the legal mandates, some are limited and some are not limited. Like for instance, on health and wellness, sports, arts and culture promotion, employment, business opportunities, access to finance is limited to the employment, education, skills development, schools only, and that they are requiring that particular sectors be the ones that take the lead in ensuring that this reasonable accommodation is actually the institutional arrangements. Housing and settlement development, social protection, institutions and consumer rights, tourism and the environment, etc. So, but this particular how the limitations should be exercised and what those particular sectors with disabilities are accommodated. Principles of principles of universal design. No.
Yes, we are very one principle.
Yes. Okay. Before we get to the principles of universal, before we get to principles of universal design, let me talk to the principles of framework. This has got to do with non-discrimination and respect for inherent dignity and individual, and also including the freedom of making one's own choices and independent. I'm seeing there on the chat they're saying it's on the next slide. Perhaps let's go to the next slide and then we'll go back to the principles of universal design. Yes, principles of, thank you very much. The principles of to do with the respect of the inherent dignity, as I've labored a lot on it, and non-discrimination, and not create unnecessary barriers for participation of persons with disabilities in all our society. Also respect for difference and acceptance of persons with disabilities as part of human diversity and humanity. Persons with disabilities are accommodated in the designs of our homes accommodate persons with disabilities. It becomes a normalized environment. Able-bodied people are able to accept persons with disabilities with the diversity at the end. I'm saying this, being careful of what I'm saying, because I want to put this right, that the difference between an able-bodied person and a person with a disability, there's certain discriminatory practices that are able-bodied people aspects, as we are addressing them here, that tend to make it impossible for persons with disabilities to access environment. So also another principle is based on the equality between men and women, and also respecting the evolving capacities of children with disabilities, and respect for the right and not to be kept separate from other children, but also some accommodated in a non-specialized environment, and that would then bring respect amongst their peers, especially, and preserve their rights. Yes, that is on the reasonable accommodation. I'm going to go straight into the principle, into the universal design, and the principles of universal design. Persons with disabilities should be able to use everything and anything in an equal manner as we do, equitably, as able-bodied do in the use. It is based on the simple and intuitive use, perceptible information, tolerance of error, low physical and common courtesy that should be applied on as a principle. Next slide. Next one. Okay. Pillars of the universal design. Allow me to just give a short synopsis of the purpose: to integrate universal access and design into planning, designing, also budgeting, implementation, monitoring, evaluation, and mechanism for integrated and multidisciplinary coordination of universal access and design implementation of barriers to access and participation for the development and implementation of performance standards, just like with the other frameworks, for the accessibility of service provided by the public. It's also meant to provide for specific roles, functions, responsibilities for matters in relation to that. Now, the 9 strategic pillars of the universal design is to remove barriers to access and participation, protecting the rights of persons with disability. I just gave an example of access to a house as an example, and access to children with disabilities. This is the strategic pillar that we're trying to address those aspects on, so that persons with disabilities are not separated from other people, and promote also reducing economic vulnerability and releasing human capital, strengthening the representative voice of persons with disabilities, building a national cooperation and monitoring and evaluation. This is what the pillars that the framework is based. Before I go into the progress to date, perhaps I should share and talk a little bit that the framework is based on, to share the fact that there are certain on the rights of persons with disabilities from duty bearers for us to be able to realize the rights of persons with disabilities. Legislation that advocates for equality for persons with disabilities, but also taking calculated action to ensure discriminatory barriers to access and participation, ensuring that the universal design in budgeting, service delivery, Chair. And the main one being to acknowledge that not all persons with disabilities, speech, sexuality, religious and cultural backgrounds, geographical location requires different. All this we have to ensure that they are embedded in policy and service delivery. The framework has the white paper on the rights of persons with disability. So it is and commits duty bearers to realize these rights. They are in detail in the bigger, broader document on the framework on universal access. Between universal access, universal design, and reasonable accommodation and disability are located within the context of the non-discriminatory laws in the bill. So this requires that for implementation of this framework, there should be a paradigm shift on how we design the services, meaning that we will have to depart from the traditional in our planning and our design, because the Constitution requires that we design and plan. That is also captured in the Credo of 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, which us together in this and ensuring that all of us have equal access and equitable access to all facilities. To date, on progress to date, the universal access and design framework and the cabinet system immediately after the meeting with the portfolio committee, and we are envisaging that cabinet will approve the 21, and government departments and other spheres of government will be expected to implement these tools to realize policy directives of the white paper on rights of persons with disabilities. Therefore, we therefore recommend that the portfolio committee take note of the frameworks and assist in performing the oversight function for successful implementation. Thank you, Chairperson. I've attached on the presentation the universal design access plan. That plan development of the universal design. Yes. Thank you. That shows how we operate from service standard and the scope of the application in terms of service design and assessment, and the assessment thereof, universal design access plan development process. So that brings me to the. I'll hand over back to the DG. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Mabele, Chairperson. I just want to say that as a department, we are now, we know we have to sign with all departments, but we are taking it incrementally to have major impact. We start with them. We agreed with Changana that we are going to enter into an MOU in discussions where we are going to look at subsidies, this bulk infrastructure and disabilities involved, but also how do we make sure that the designs enable accommodation. Also with the Department of Water, we're also going to enter into an MOU. Abilities are able to access design is designed, or even the water tanks take into consideration the design and the distance, take into consideration women, youth, creating the NSP on gender-based violence. We've already started with the two major departments that are involved in major consultation and the Department of Housing. But also we are monitoring government designs besides this one, the framework which we've designed, which we ask for information from government departments in terms of abilities in government, but also whether they have disability focal points, but youth focal points and persons with disability focal points, we don't hear that much. So we are trying consistency in terms of representation. And we'll hand over back to the out. We will respond through questions, because I think there will be questions that will be, I hand over to you.
Thank you very much, DG and Ms. Puti, for the presentation. It's a lot of that. It's a lot of work that you've done as a department, and the presentation, you can see even the volume to do. But I think I'm not an expert on these issues, but what I want to share some research and check with other countries on how are they dealing with. You know what we have done as the portfolio committee, we have requested our researchers also to do some form of research and check other countries on how are they maybe for us as members, we can be able also to see how other countries are dealing with them, and then so that we can take some few points the department so that you can maybe put in. I just want to check from your side, have you done that?
Thank you, Chair.
Just to learn.
Yes. There were some benchmarks which were done, we just studied. I'm not just able to give the report now. There are, for instance, on universal design and access, there are several government within their new facilities that they are acquiring in terms of building the universal design and access in order to persons with disabilities, which is just an most of our government departments also are able to then in a standardized uniform manner. So once it's approved and everything is and then we're able to then monitor its implementation. But I can to implement this universal design and access program. although they're still in other government departments that are indeed, and even private sector in the country. There are institutions that we visited this past December, where we have seen how in their employment of persons with disabilities, they also are trying to meet the universal design. So there is a level of benchmark that has been done.
Okay, thank you, Puti. Let's hear honorable members. Hence, what now? Kosana, inkikile lento oriented, and I don't know.
We can hear you, Chair.
Ngizokhomba kanjani ama-members? Sorry? Yes. Oh, ibuyile futhi. Right. I see Babu Ngobo and Honorable Mpiti, Mam Hlengwa, Mam Sondi.
My apology, Chair. It seems as if the Deputy Minister is kicked out also.
Yeah, I think
Chair, it keeps on kicking me out, but I'm in.
yeah, nami bengenze kanjalo. Bese ngimangele sengibiza unkosana ukuthi yini manje. Masiko, Honorable Ngobo, Honorable Mpiti, Honorable Mam Hlengwa, Mam Sonti, Honorable Masiko, and Honorable in that order. I don't know whether Mkweba, Honorable Mkweba, your hand is up. I don't see your name here. Okay.
Thank you, Chairperson. Good morning, colleagues, for their presentation. So my first set of questions is directed to the law reforming on extensive public consultation. So I just would like to find out what would the nature of out to all the relevant key stakeholders using social media and other platforms to communicate with the stakeholders. And also on the advertising for commentary, I would like to know how the members of the public take their input. And just to check if the issue paper will be disability friendly, meaning it will be accessible to and just to check if it will be possible for the issue paper to be translated into Louis. And just on for the department and for the law commission as well, on any work on the inclusion of sign language as one of the official languages in South Africa. And lastly, Chairperson, last year in November, there was a big issue in the disability unit of disabilities, which angered many persons with disabilities in this country, where the director's wife got a top job, which was meant for quality, asked for an investigation into this matter, but we haven't received any outcome or report emanating benefiting from that investigation. And persons with disabilities in this country, it's really ironic that we have frameworks which are meant to change the living conditions of persons with disabilities department that overlooked qualifying persons with disabilities for the post in the disability unit. So I would like the investigation. Thank you.
Honorable Mpiti.
Thank you very much, Chair, and a very good morning to all honourable members and officials, and also to the Minister and the Deputy Minister in the Department of Women, Youth and Persons with Disabilities. Chair has left off because I think it's a very important point. I'm very surprised that this meeting has started in the manner that it has, where the issue of matters relating to nepotism within the department. And we've requested an investigation. And today, again, we've received no feedback as to what that is. Primarily due to the fact that as honourable members, we have a responsibility that's enshrined within the Constitution, department, but also to respond and communicate issues that are related to our issues that relate to the community, the disabled community in South Africa. And I do find it very wrong, Chair, that we are continuing with the particular presentation where there's different appointments within this particular department of people with disabilities, where we've seen on a number of occasions different groups across for clarity as to what took place last year within this department in terms of the appointment of the chief director. And I do think, Chair, we can address as to what has been done in terms of the investigation of not only the position of chief director, but other positions to recognize the importance and the value and the extent that people with disabilities are not even given an opportunity to hold senior positions within the framework that is supposed to be providing space for people with disabilities, not only in educational facilities, but also at this very department has failed, Chair. It has failed to take or implement it within its own department. So how then do we speak about MOUs with other departments when the very same department itself is failing for rights, Chair? Because how do we buy into frameworks? How do we buy into frameworks that are supposed to be ensuring that the value have some value in places of workplace, when in fact this department is not doing that? So I do think it needs to be addressed. There was enough. I don't think I was lost there properly by the minister on this matter. We need to be given the update as to where this investigation is, and that from a point of understanding the communities in which we represent, why has there not been any means to try and rectify the valid concerns of this particular group in our country? Why have been heard? Because this department, the people of South, with the way in which we are handling things of this department, then I think it's very problematic. You know, we can't come every week in these committees and speak about in terms of finding jobs, in terms of not having access same equalities that the rest of South Africans have. Very same department that is supposed to defend their rights, fight for this, failing to do that. Something is wrong, Chair. Something like to put that first point up direct on that issue, and we want to know where that investigation has ended up. And I think, Chair, I will come back with the issue I'd like to put on the table. Thank you very much.
Honorable Mamhlema.
Tooltip mute. Currently unmuted. I'll plus say.
Thank you, Chairperson. First, the Minister, Deputy Minister, all the members of the department, the presentation. For now, I have only one question on the self-representing framework. The national speaks of national and provincial disability coordinating mechanism. As we understand, it will be constituted by the various disability rights coordinators of various departments and by the department in which the National Disability Rights Coordinating Mechanism is placed. How does one ensure that such a coordinating mechanism fulfills its functioning mechanism, does not meet its own targets, and has a history of instability and failing to monitor? What measures will be put in place to address this risk? Time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Shlengwa. Mamsonti.
Thank you, Chairperson. Good morning, all of the colleagues and Minister and Deputy Minister and the department of you. Disabilities have many challenges, and it has been a long time. And also there are not as e.g. those luckily who have the wheelchairs. They struggle in transport. They are not comfortable, even in terms of they firstly have not the platforms. And on the taxis, they must pay for their wheelchairs. So I think the government should ensure that protection. Number two, and then also there are many persons because of the deep rural areas they stay. And on that issue, I think is the role that the services are for only those areas, communities who has got the service, the good services, and you must make sure that all the services are in same as the people of South Africa. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you.
Chairperson, one must firstly welcome and thank the presentation, the law reform, as well as the Department of Women, Youth and clearly outlined as a portfolio committee. I think it's upon us to also ensure that we are closely monitoring it. A lot of work has gone into it and has been done, and I think we should appreciate that. I want to also, chairperson, pick on the issue marking with other countries that have implemented such policies or not. In terms of implementation, how have they varied? Because we know that it's always enforcement. We are always found wanting as a country, and it's not only related policies that we are having. So it would be interesting to check on whether other countries are successfully implementing what that they are receiving. Chairperson, I don't have questions per se, but for me, it's of the easy sector specifically. Honorable member has raised the issue of being and into braille, as well as for it to be accessible. We cannot never overemphasize the issue of thorough consultation, specifically, in the without us. So it's always important to ensure that the persons, the development that are happening. Chairperson, I feel that we need more disability awareness to address, especially employers of persons with disabilities. It's not only a policy that will address the issues of the comfort cities, but it's also for those that will be, creating those environments to educate them more on and lastly, chairperson, that no matter how good an idea is on life, and that means that we need, chairperson, and I also want to go back to the fact that I also do feel that departments and also the private sector, we need a person to bring on board capable persons with disabilities. It's at all levels, but more especially, chairperson, at a top management. They are capable of achieving many things in our communities and in our space, and opportunity to bring on board a person with disability, specifically working with the work and implementing programs for persons with disabilities. And I need at the end of the day to practice what we preach. And we know that charity begins at home. As a department, we must be able to say that, look, we are and we have implemented such successfully, and then as well. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Just on what Honorable Masiko had said, I do think that the department has to rectify the mistake that it made. It's not a missed opportunity, it's a mistake. And the fact was taken before a very capable person with disability is very problematic. And I want to echo my sentiments with my colleagues that this is absolutely ironic that we get presentations on how important it is to ensure that representation is there cut across all government departments, private sectors, NGOs, all sides. And Honorable Masiko is correct. Charity starts at home, and it shows that we are not even taking our own advice, and that is problematic. And so I look forward to the explanation by the executive on what they're going to do to rectify this. I have a couple of questions. The first one is, in the first presentation, Elias said that there are those who participated in the National Disability Rights Machinery and the presidential work in the production or the ideas around these frameworks. And what do they mean when they say that they are at the final stages of consultation? What does that mean? Universal plan. How will these frameworks link to policies in the Department of Labour and the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure is in charge of building the buildings and rebuilding plans? So how will the department build on existing legislation, or will it replace the existing legislation that's there? The same recommendation, how does this framework work in relation to existing policies? My next question is, how will to have good words and nice paragraphs on a piece of paper? It's another in people's lives on the ground. And government has a bad habit that all these documents that have a lot of research and then it stays in people's lives. So how will these frameworks be different in 2021? What are some of the interventions that the department plans to implement to ensure, one, monitoring its impact, and number three, evaluating the outcomes of these frameworks? My next question is, how we have a white paper, there's a bill being developed, going to work together to ensure that change actually comes. And then I want to know more on the public participation and what the department has done. I'm wrong, but if I'm not mistaken, clusters are going to meet in May of this. If clusters are only meeting in May, yes. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Mkweba.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, honorable members. Chair, one, let me welcome the president. I know that honorable members have asked so many questions, but one thing I want to raise to this portfolio committee is that the supervision of the minister and the deputy minister are embarking on an extensive public consultation. The document that it will then take us to May 2021. I will say that as the portfolio committee, one, our responsibility is to make sure that also our responsibility Disabilities, honorable members, all of us affiliates, is to make sure that we also form part of this process side, without blaming, and secondly, Chair, while comrade, honorable members have asked so many questions, because I understand that there will be an issue paper will be advertised for commentary. Might which languages, by in terms of all the in terms of this issue paper. So a disability person from in rural areas who can read and write, some of them, and also hearing and visually, they've got hearing and visually impaired persons, they are reasonably accommodated, so that in terms of public education, and of which look like, so that you understand while you are doing that involved, and they must also submit comments. Then my understanding is that because I didn't hear from the department impaired in terms of a document that I know it's called a bail, because there are those that must remember. I would wish that all of us as honorable members must not the minister or the deputy minister, but must always do our own oversight, because at the end of the day, it won't be fingered to the department, but to the portfolio committee. How do we then make sure that at the end of the day, they deliver services to from rural areas and obvious in urban areas? Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you very much. I see Galaxy S20. If you want to come on. Sorry?
Minister. It's my turn, Mashavani.
Okay. All right.
And the Minister and honorable members, there was a question that was asked by a P that the Director General of the department respond to that question, that indeed we appreciate the contributions that we got in this meeting from all states.
Okay. DG and Minister and DM, what I want to check with you have presented today, maybe have you consulted with the disability organizations, civil society organizations that are dealing with issues? I think, in this matter, it's true that we've received letters of complaints, and I think we have forwarded them to the department. Today's meeting was not meant for the department to come and respond for that. And from yesterday, I've been saying to the honorable member, because you can't just deal with a correspondence and issues piecemeal. And what we have done when we were drafting our program, we have allocated a day whereby all the correspondence whatsoever, we have allocated a day where we are going to discuss all those correspondence, and we'll want the department to come and respond to committee, because I think some of them you have responded in writing, and even some of them, even Honorable PT, some of the you have responded in writing, because I even forwarded a letter that was coming from the department in relation to one letter that she has. You know, when we say our schedule is tight, we mean our schedule is tight. And all these things we need to deal. Remember, we have written to Public Service Commission, we have written to so we need to check, to get all those responses, and the department will be here. Then we'll wrestling with things. I believe when we deal with issues, we must have resolutions that are going to be implemented by the department. So that's why I did not respond to Honorable PT when he was raising, because I know for the fact that there is a meeting that is going to be scheduled for all those things, because it's not one issue. The disabled organization, I forgot the name, and treated unfairly, they are objecting to the appointments by the department. We need to deal with that officially, and to give dignity, relevant persons who have written to us formally from complainants or from people from outside. We refer those letters. We don't just get back a response, and we will communicate with the committee accordingly. So that's why, Honorable PT, the schedule is very tight. So thank you, Honorable Minister. Remember, it's not that just with the department, it's other appointments that were made during the lockdown period. So they did do her own duties in relation to that, to investigate in relation to that. And we also took a resolution that we are going to send letter and the Department of Public Service. So unless you want us to change and deal with these things, I don't think that's what you meant. But what you meant, department, in relation to the issues that we have raised. But the meeting of today, even if you can check the agenda, it's specific the issues that they are presenting today. It's not that it's there. So over to you, TG.
Thank you, Chairperson.
I don't know whether it's the okay.
Should I speak, Chair?
Yes.
Or you still
no.
I'll start by responding to the issue of the fears that think maybe this matter has been closed. Then to the Department of Public Service and Administration, and then the Department of Public Service and Administration wrote to me as a Director General to say they have referred commission. The Public Service Commission last year in December to submit the advert or the CVs received the inter, and we have since last year submitted all those, which means that the Public Service Commission is investigating this process. We'll write to the Department of Public Service and Administration findings. So that's what I can say now, that they are investigating the process. The responses to
what as you are going to respond, you respond to the when drafting the frameworks that you are intending to submit for approval. Have you consulted with those civil society organizations or institutions that are dealing with such matters, so that we are sure that if drafted, they are addressing the needs of persons with disabilities. Agree? So involvement of them it's important, because I'm not an expert. Do they have all of them? I will think of those that I think it's about buildings which they are not accessible by the disabled people, Akoma ramps and so on and so on. And but other issues like one honorable member was talking about whether you have as the 12, is it the 12th language? Because we've got languages. Yes, the issues of importance that we feel strong that they must be considered. The issues, those that that the braille gadgets, whether number we have case consulting with the people who are dealing with these issues every day and who are living with these issues every day. I think, even before Tina, as we deal with it, but I think because it is not taking them serious. So I think we must not miss that one. Okay, over to
you. Thank you. In terms of consultation, Mr. Benny Padime to respond to consultation with they call it the disability sector, and then the benchmarking, the frameworks that we've done, benchmarking with international.
The framework would link to the bill. Is that okay to continue now, or should we wait till further later on?
You can respond.
I would suggest that we consult with the Department of Women, Youth, Persons with Disabilities, because it would seem that these frameworks would now be dedicating how accessibility, reasonable accommodations should be done in South Africa by the public, by corporations, by the government. So we would consult and treat it as an input from on the issue paper, and then we'll take that input given and we'll work it into the discussion paper to see how those how the bill will, or bills or amendment acts will relate to the frameworks. And if I can just mention in terms of Honourable Member Nguebe's question regarding the public consultation under the department will end in May 2021. If I can just mention that the Law Reform Commission is an independent statutory body. We are not, do not fall under the Department of Women, Youth and Persons with Disabilities, even though we work with them. And then in terms of which language it will be published in, it will be published in easy read format, and usually it's published in English. And how reasonable accommodation will be done, we've discussed all the measures needed to do that in the meetings with the Department of Women, Youth, Persons with Disabilities. And then what still needs to be done is we need to implement this to actually do the proper consultations. I thank you. Mr. Clark, if Ms. Clark has anything to add, she's my supervisor on this matter. She can maybe enlighten the commission. Thank you.
Thank you. Benny, can you respond to the issue of the sign language? Before you respond, I just want to indicate to the honorable members that last year I did communicate with, I think it's the Constitutional Assembly Committee or whatever that is in Parliament, in terms of whether are they investigating the amendment of or the inclusion of sign language as the 12th language, because the 11 languages are defined in the Constitution. So in order for us to do that, it will need some technical amendment of the Constitution, and they were working on that. And Benny also has also been communicating with them. So I'll request Benny to respond to that question.
Chair, can I go ahead?
Yes.
Yes, you can go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Council, Advocate Maluleka. What I wanted to say here, Chair, is that the most important aspect of this approach would be to say we go through the Use of Official Languages Act, which we have started. In fact, we started looking at that process, and through the Office of the Deputy Minister, we have had a webinar with the deaf community on the Sign Language Charter last year, and the Deputy Minister was leading that process. Secondly, Chair, we are looking at Section 6 of the Constitution to ensure that this becomes a moving train, so to say. However, we would still have consultations with the Constitutional Review Committee, and I would ask that the chair assist in that process so that we can discuss the nitty-gritties, you know, just to cross the I's and dot the T's very quickly and make sure that this becomes an official language. So we're not going to do it through the normal process of the South African Law Reform Commission. We'll go straight into the Act, do the amendment of specific sections, and because we've got a baseline of the Constitution. But the issue is going to be that how we actually implement it in schools. You know, Chair, I know you are concerned about schools, you are concerned about clinics and so forth. Our difficulty is going to be that then once we amend the Act, it means that sign language must be requested on demand. It means that if a person who's deaf gets to a clinic, they would have the right to demand that they be addressed in sign language. But I think it's a matter that we will discuss with the committee and see how we actually get our frontline staff to be trained in basic sign language, Chair, because there's 3 types of sign languages, as you know. It's the basic one, the academic one, and then the advanced sign language. But that's the process that we are going to follow. Thank you, Chair.
So, Mr. Benny, do you think there's something wrong when they demand? Is it not their right?
No, Chair, it's a right. It's an absolute right, actually, if you look at it. Chair, you remember that in law, we've got absolute rights and relative rights. So this is an absolute right. It's not a relative right. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you, Chair. And then also there was a question from Umam Mhlengwa about self-representation, about the framework. Puti? Is Puti here?
Yes, I'm here, DG.
Did you note the question here, Mam Mhlengwa, and
yes,
respond?
on the self-representation at national and with regard to the national and provincial disability forums.
Yes.
The disability forums at national are there, and it's the strengthening of the coordination mechanism in this machinery that we are emphasizing in the framework. And at provincial level, we know that we have got offices of rights of persons with disabilities at the offices of the Premier, and also which requires us to also assist in strengthening the machinery in the province, and also representation of organizations in provinces for them to effectively participate in the various elements of self-representation. Just to emphasize that it's an area that requires strengthening. It is not running as smoothly as it should right now. The provincial disability forums are not coordinated as they should, but then that particular aspect in the framework is meant to strengthen that the coordination thereof. Thanks, Chair.
Okay.
Thanks. Honorable Sonti also asked questions about services for persons with disabilities, and made an example of the transport industry. Before they come in, I just want to indicate that as a department, we have initiated partnerships with Santaco, National Transport Association, and Long Distance Transport Association, specifically to ensure that in whatever program that they implement, they integrate women, youth, and persons with disabilities. Last year, we started a training. We trained in Limpopo, here in Gauteng, and in the Eastern Cape. A number of taxi drivers have been trained in terms of issues of gender-based violence, and we have agreed with National Transport Association that they will specialize, because Santaco was specializing on issues of gender-based violence, that they should specialize on disability, so that they come up with means and measures that we can now be able to adopt and also share with other taxi associations. It's a program that is going to run throughout, because we've even sourced funds from the GIZ to ensure that we work with the all taxi associations in order to ensure that they address issues of disability and issues of gender-based violence. And then I'll hand over to Mr. Padime and Ms. Mabelebel to respond if I didn't respond to some of the issues in terms of transport. Yeah, the benchmark Benny has already responded. Easy access, disability awareness and education. Yeah, I think those are the issues that Honorable Sonti had challenges with them. Benny and Mabelebel.
Thank you, DG. Can I come back, Chair?
Yes.
Thank you very much. In terms of the taxi industry, Chairperson, what has happened was that we actually tested a number of bus lanes in Cape Town. We've done that in 2019, 2020. We have seen that they actually meet the standards. We actually went to the Gautrain, we did all of the investigations, and we see that they are actually meeting the, the standards. The Department of Transport has worked with us in terms of developing a specific policy that seeks to address issues of disability. In that consultation, we actually wrote up, as a department with the Department of Transport, we wrote up a policy that has been circulated to the municipalities. In the taxi industry, yes, our DG is very clued up with it. We actually had a meeting with the taxi industry, and we were able to address all the matters that relates to persons with disabilities. And Chair, I must say, tell you that Theo Malele, for instance, from the National Taxi Alliance, he has a disability himself. So he has been a person who's been very, you know, upfront in terms of dealing with issues of persons with disabilities. So we are definitely in that process, and we would be able to give the report to the Portfolio Committee once the transport policy has been approved by the Director General of the Department of Transport. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, Chair, on the questions regarding the linkage between the frameworks with the bills, in the presentation, we alluded to the fact that we derive the mandates of the frameworks from the UNCRPD and also the different articles that are captured from the UNCRPD and also the white paper on the rights of persons with disabilities. So the different slides that have indicated where we derive the mandate is the ones that reflects the linkage of the frameworks to the different the overarching frameworks where we derive our mandate from. And of course, the bill as it will be drafted will also be deriving its mandate from also the UNCRPD and aspects of the white paper on persons with disabilities. And the frameworks are going to provide the regulatory framework for us to be able to ensure that departments are indeed complying with the bill at a time when it is passed. But currently, we have the white paper on the rights of persons with disabilities to assist us to be able to develop these frameworks as tools for implementation of the frameworks on rights of persons with disabilities. So I thought I should just answer on that one from Honorable Sherry. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. DG?
Yes. Also, from Honorable Sherif, she had inquired about how we are facilitating or ensuring that the frameworks, these frameworks have application with the Department of Employment and Labor, with the Department of Public Works and Investment, also in the Department of Transport. As indicated earlier on when I started presenting that, I've met with the DG of Housing, Human Settlement, and the DG of Water and Sanitation, where we were agreeing in terms of what is it that we are going to enter into an MOU on, because we then require them to mainstream women, youth, and persons with disabilities, and in terms of employment, in terms of them benefiting, in terms of them responding, reasonable accommodation. And so we've agreed. So the next thing that would happen, in fact, with the Department of Labor, we've already written to them to request them to respond to us in terms of labor issues of rights of persons with disabilities, in terms of employment, in terms of ensuring that we reach the targets. we have to follow up with that, but we're still going to enter in an MOU with them and DPWI and the Department of Transport, because it makes it easier for them to account, because we have agreed, and we come in as in saying as a department, we want to help you to comply with the instruments, we want to help you to comply with the frameworks that we've developed, because these are not the only frameworks. For example, now we have already developed a framework to assist all of them to mainstream the National Strategic Plan on Gender-Based Violence. We have developed a framework for them to be able to comply with the gender responsive planning, budgeting, monitoring, evaluation, and auditing. So all those, when we enter into an MOU with the departments, then we are able to ensure that we enforce what we have agreed on. The clusters, I think the other question was about the clusters. The clusters have already started. The DG's clusters have already, and that one on the economic on the economic cluster. The DG's cluster are already running. The ministers' clusters also. I think today or tomorrow there is a JCPS cluster of ministers that the minister will be attending. Even yeah, the ministerial clusters, the schedule as we have presented of presenting to the clusters and to cabinet, they are already running, so we'll be able to about the consultation process. I think that has already been responded to. The only one that had not been responded to is that where she suggested that all political parties must do oversight. In terms of the bill, government on this side will do the process. Parliament and cabinet, I mean to say, and request cabinet to allow us to publish in the government gazette, so that we can be able to consult with the public. After consultation with the public, when the initiate its own, Parliament starts afresh and consult as it wants to, and even send it back if it wants to send it back. And then the issue of the advertisement of the issue paper, Ms. Prince has already translated into Braille, but also, as we have indicated, that as a department, we're going to ensure that there are, because of COVID-19, I will host webinars in order to consult widely, in order to be able to consult. And then, yeah, the issue of consultation. The last question was from the chairperson about whether we have consulted on involving the presidential working group and the working committees on the disability. I think we've covered all the questions. If I've missed any, chairperson, you will.
Thank you very much.
Chair?
Yes.
Chair, I just wanted to add something here. Thank you, the DG, and they have tried to give more clarity.
Yes.
If the network is weak, Comrade Chair, it keeps on chucking me out. Okay. So I was just saying, Chairperson, thank you to honorable members. Thank you, Chair. I think the DG and the team has tried to respond to all the questions. I just wanted to question that was raised by Umamhlengwa. I know our Chief Director, Ms. Mabele, has responded to it, but I think she was honest enough. I appreciated that, because sometimes I always say be defensive. She said the structures that on the disability sector at a national level is stronger, but as you go down to the provinces vary in terms of their commitment and cooperation. Irrespective to them, sometimes you don't get those positive responses, but I wanted to assure honorable members that we've just gone through government Khutla. There was just so much emphasis on the importance of the district development model. Each to persons with disabilities, it was clear that nobody can present any big project public who will not do it through the district development model. And so, honorable members, this model helps us because it brings us closer to communities, which means even the issues of culture, automatically they are taken into consideration. For instance, if I were to present, let's say I have a consultative workshop at Lisikisik, there's no way in which I could in that community. So with regard to consultation, the language, the issues of the sign language, we really appreciate those questions. And I do believe when we go back, our department will continue to structures with regards to their importance. But just, I think it was Honorable Sonti who emphasized issues that in rural areas. You know, honorable members, when I look at all government departments and what our department did, we had so many consultation meetings. Unfortunately, they were online. Of people in rural we could have their challenge, their deep and more, but because of COVID, we couldn't really do justice to it. But the president has got champions in all of them at a level of ministers and deputy ministers. You raise issues and feed the system so that we cross this bridge for our persons in rural areas. With regard to the issue of benchmarking, I think it's an important question. In the sense that I agree, our frameworks, they are informed by international frameworks, and promising. But when it comes to implementation, we still need to do more. I noted amongst the countries that Benin mentioned, the US and so on, Rwanda and Kenya in particular. And we really need, hopefully, to come back to the committee to talk about where we can say, in partnership with the disability sector, they would feel that, our government has arrived. Because at the moment, the sector tends to be unhappy about many things. And in most instances, we agree with all the good frameworks, their endorsement, acceptability, but it's almost like something is not helping us to get there as a collective, not only continue to feed into the system and make sure that they're best practices. There's just one thing another thing which I wanted to talk to, that I think as a department, we have to strengthen and sharpen our instruments when it comes to impact and feedback back to departments. Yes, the DG has assured honorable members that the department under her leadership is departments, which is really an honorable thing to do. So we are hoping that we'll be able to monitor independently whether the agreed upon points are implemented and the sector is beginning to experience the impact. But unfinished project, the questions that are raised, they will help the department further to move forward. And this nothing about us without us. When we meet with the sector during the month of November, honorable members, when the president met with the presidential working group, we all committed to even agreed as per their guidance that we'll have an education in Naba, which will take into consideration, I think they are still outstanding. With regard to Honorable Chair, the issue of questions, we really, and also raised by the committee, we appreciate that. I think through the office of the Director General, we will all have to work hard in preparation for the chairperson so that when that meeting takes place, we will play a leadership role. And as the minister addressed issues in the past, Honorable Chair, around what seemed to have upset the sector, it's also in discussion, and we come to the point where we have consensus, and there's a clear understanding in our last meeting in the department for this unit, the disability unit, but to say overall where we have an opportunity within the department, let's raise the bar and become an example. And so thank you very much, honorable member.
Thank you very much, DM, for the response, for your remarks. Hopefully you are done. Did it's a deal.
Somebody just reminded me of one question that we didn't respond to. I think it was a question by Honorable Sherif, the link between the department and DPWI. I'll request Ms. Mabelebele to respond to that one. I think it's in the framework as.
Yes, thanks, DG. Thank you, Chair. The Honorable Sherry raised a question of policies linked to a linkage with the Department of Public Works. with regard to the universal access and design. Within the framework, the broader document of the framework, we have attached an implementation matrix that talks to the different role players, inclusive of the Department of Public Works and areas at which we would expect this on the matter of universal access and design. For instance, it talks to also the policy directive being that of removing barriers to access and participation. We've put it in, and it finds reflection from the white paper on the rights of persons with disabilities. So there's an element of also the appointment and training of infrastructure accessibility liaison officers, according to which the DPW will be held accountable for and should be able to implement, and there are quite a number of them where the SABS has to adjust certain standards and norms in order to ensure that there's regulation around the implementation of that particular matrix and the universal access and design of buildings, for instance, in terms of facilities. So I just thought I should give that indication to the implementation matrix of the white paper, which is guiding in terms of the different role players. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chairperson. I hand over to you.
Thank you very much, TG. It's just a comment that I wanted to say to DM. If you can also look at how Ghana has implemented the district model, you know, especially on the issues of GBV. If you can just Google it, yeah, I think it's Ghana. If you can look at it, maybe you can get some few things that are good there, but I'll still check my notes whether it's Ghana or yeah, but I think it's Ghana. I was tempted when you were because I saw that it bears a good results when it's implemented holistically and everybody, all spheres of government are participating in it. And thank you very much, honorable members. I see there's a Galaxy S20.
Is the same one? It's my.
Oh, Minister. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you very much for the opportunity once again, and thanks to all members, committee members, for the contribution through your chairship. I just wanted to say, to confirm what the Deputy Minister, Honorable Deputy Minister, has said about the Presidential Working Group meeting in November, which I also attended, and the commitment we've made on making sure that people with disabilities will not run a section of disabled people only, but we still have vacancies, very senior vacancies, including a DDG. If there is a qualified person, we will find together, help us find a DDG again of disabled people. We will not say no. We need to work together. We've worked together. We've entered, you know, even difficult terrains like the ones I've learned from you of the taxi industry when we worked with the Women's League. That's why they did. When we went to the Presidential Working Group, they were the ones who were championing our cause, including the matter of the gender-based violence. Yes, you're correct, Chair. It's Ghana. We can learn something on Ghana, and Ghana can learn some from ourselves. On district development model, we are on course for all the three sectors that our department are COVID that has really tied our hands. One morning you attend a funeral, one morning you attend a portfolio committee meeting. You know, life is tough, but life is going on. When there is a need for us to continue holding each other's hand, we will never run away. We will never run away from the progressive criticism that you bring into the meetings so that we continue responding to our people from all sectors. We never run away and we will not run away. We will not run away from matters that make life difficult for people with disabilities. We still have a challenge of youth unemployment, and COVID has made life even far much more impossible. Run away, it's not our style. Sitting down, listen to positive and the what do you want to hear and what you don't want to hear, it's what we came here for. We will work together with the committee chair to listen to your advice so that we continue to champion the cause of this department. I
thank you very much, Minister, for your remarks. And I think, honorable members, we have come to the end of hoping to see you, Minister and DM, next week. And I'm sure we can share some of the reports that we got from provinces in relation to the sanitary dignity pack, on how have they accounted to, we are going to look at, and how then do we identify provinces where we are going to do oversight visits so that we can be sure that what they presented in the portfolio committee is exactly what we found when we go there, rather than us calling them to the meeting and then they make presentations and then we don't go and see exactly what is happening. But we also have a concern on the allocations, especially within, you know, Eastern Cape is a big province, and it's deeply rural. And according to the reports of other the beneficiaries, the ones that are benefiting, the number is very small, and we know that is one province that has high rate of poverty and unemployment. And I think we can share some of the reports, Nelly Sockens and DG, whether to the DG or to yourself, so that you can go through those reports also and see how then can we do advocacy on their behalf where there is a need. But thank you very much, Minister, for your presence, and DM and DG, thank you for even the
South African Law Reform Commission.
Yes, for inviting South African Law Reform Commission to be part of this meeting and make a presentation so that we can get the insight of the drafting that they are doing with disabilities. We're looking forward to it, and we must ensure, Minister and DM, that some documents, I don't know how we're going to do it, so that they can be translated in our vernacular languages so that our people must understand exactly, because sometimes it becomes difficult for our people to understand. Vaccine is 100 and something somewhere in Alexandra, and I sent that poster to DDD Shoki, so that she can consult the officials in the Department of Health and verify this information. You talk about vaccine or vaccination. Now, what people are looking at talking about the COVID vaccine. So any other general vaccine that it may present, it's true that there are many vaccines out there. It's a vaccine for flu, which I don't take because it makes me sick. And there are many vaccines, Minister and DM, and if we leave it like, we will mislead the people. So I think something needs to be done. It must be remote, and the Department of Health and your department, it is the responsibility of government to safeguard the people and not let people go there, and we don't even know who are those people, and they will think that it's this vaccine that just arrived in the country for COVID, and they will flock into the area, pay their money, thinking that it's for COVID. Whereas, what kind of vaccine are they talking about? But it's such things that all of us, as public representatives, when we see such posters, we must take it upon ourselves. But thank you very much, honorable members, Minister and DM. DG, thank you for your team. Babu Penny, you were well prepared. And we don't want to be getting complaints from civil society organizations. Confirmed to us that you have consulted with them. We trust that we have done it. So I think we have come to the end of our meeting. We'll see you in the next meeting. But thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair. Bye-bye.
Alert, Prince.
I know.
Don't leave, Babu.
Sihlalo. Kunjani?
Khona
ngilalele. Hey, yazini. Hayi, asazi yazi kunzima emhlabeni. Kunzima. Kunzima yazi inhliziyo ayisavumi. Kodwa sibongeni. Asibongeni nje, hayi impilo iyala yo. Kodwa sibonga uNkulunkulu. We must just keep on praying. No, thank you. Bye.
Well, thank you very much, members, and thanks in particular, Chair.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Goodbye.
Stay safe.
Thank you. You too.
Okay, sharp.
Hey, but kunzima.
Siyancaba. Every day. Yes, ukhansela wakhona usore in ngoNovember. Ceda kuwena lo muntu lo kolekayo one ushonile iCovid.
Mina, just this week, I think we have had more than 4 funerals just in 1 week.
How was it?
Including, I don't know, I don't know how to count others, but say,
Hayi kunzima Minister vele ukuvula ifoni.
Yes. But hayi masithandazeni
kakhulu yenze sincede.
and sibonge ukuthi hayi umsebenzi uyawuqhuba noma kunzima kanjani.
What can we do?
Thank you.
Bye,
Thanks.
bye,
Goodbye.
bye.
Bye.